All right, so we are now in Module 10. And similar to the last module, sadly, there are two more chapters you have to read here. So you're going to be asked to read Chapter 11 and Chapter 12. And also similar to the last module, I'm going to ask you to do Chapter 11 on your own. The module notes will instead focus on Chapter 12. So there are objectives listed for Chapter 11, as well as Chapter 12, obviously. But in terms of reading the material, really just read the chapter on your own. It's straightforward. It's about abnormal psychology. And one thing I'd like you just to focus on while you're doing your reading is trying to explain things like depression and anxiety disorder using an evolutionary focus. So think about those things and also think about happiness. So why are we happy from an evolutionary point of view? In chapter 12, as well as in the module notes, I'm covering a fair breadth of material here. And one of the reasons why is that evolutionary psychology has really become rather focused on mating. And if you were to attend, say, the Human Behavior and Evolution Society conference, which is a fantastic meeting, if you ever can go, please go. If you were to attend it, though, you'd see that probably, I'd say about 80 to 85% of the talks deal with mating. So it's a really, really big area for us. And the two things I'm going to point out right now are paternity certainty and mate preferences. So the idea with paternity certainty is a little bit disturbing, I think, for some of us at a personal level. What it means is that unlike women who know who they've had sex with and give birth to the child physically themselves, men aren't always going to be 100% sure that their partner has been faithful. And there could be all sorts of reasons why. And at the same time, they're not the ones that directly give birth. So men have what's called paternity uncertainty. And for some reason, in psychology, we call it paternity certainty rather than uncertainty. Don't ask why. So regardless, this uncertainty leads men to have very different levels of thinking about things than women, or different ways of thinking about things than women. So I want you to focus on that and be able to explain how paternity certainty ties into other cultural events. So for example, matrilineal inheritance, how does that work? And also, what would it mean for, say, sex differences in investment of offspring? So that's one issue. The other issue is mate preferences. And due to men and women's very different histories, they have evolved very different mate preferences in some cases. So the top mate preferences tend to be stable. Everyone wants someone who's kind, who's trustworthy, genuine, especially for long-term mates. But then when you start getting down to some of the lower level features, it turns out that there are some sex differences. So take a read of that material. And usually this is the chapter that students find the most interesting because it's the most relatable to your everyday life. And I hope you enjoy it.